You said that kind of shifted a little bit when you came to Cincinnati. What was it that brought you here?
Well, that's a long story, but so um, pretty much what happened was I met my to-be wife when we were fellows at Hopkins, and she was doing pediatric ophthalmology, and so we dated, and I had a job in South Carolina, and she had a job in Maine as a private practice. There's no academics, and I wanted to be an academic neuro-ophthalmologist. So I moved to South Carolina. She moved to Maine, and we continued to date, and then got more serious and said, "All right, we both like where we are, but if we're going to get married, one of us has to move." And I can't go to Maine and be an academic neuro-ophthalmologist, and you can go to Charleston and be a private practice pediatric. So she said, "Okay, under the circumstances that if she doesn't like it, we'll move." So she came down, and after like a year and a half, let's just say she didn't like the prevailing social attitudes, and she said, "Okay, I want to move." And so we looked around, and around that time, well, it wasn't quite that time. It was before we decided to move. Bob Osher, who was the head of the Eye Institute at the time, at the Cincinnati Eye Institute at the time, called me and left a message. And my secretary said, "Oh yeah, Dr. Osher called you from Cincinnati." And I said, "Who the heck is that?" "Oh, he didn't say. He just called and asked you to give him a call back." And I said, "Okay." So I called. He said, "This is Dr. Bob Osher." I said, "Yeah." He said, "We need a neuro-ophthalmologist in Cincinnati." And I said, "Okay, that's nice. Why are you calling me?" "Well, my good friend Jeff Odell we were roommates, and he said you're an up-and-coming neuro-ophthalmologist. How about coming to Cincinnati?" I said, "Forget it." I said, "I'm sitting on the porch of my new house. I can see the ocean. This is where I've always wanted to live." I said, "But my wife's not that happy, and we're giving it like another 6 months. But she's a pediatric. We need a pediatric ophthalmologist." And I said, "Well, give me 6 months." He said, "Okay." So 6 months went by, and we said, "All right." So we started looking around, and we quickly realized that although there were some number of jobs for neuro-ophthalmologists and pediatric ophthalmologists around the United States, there were almost none that wanted both. And not only that, they wouldn't interview one of us if they knew we were bringing the other, because that would be competition for their group. So we went to Cincinnati and stayed at Dr. Osher's house for the weekend. And it was kind of like the Firm, that movie, The Firm. Every mealtime, a bigger, fancier car showed up to pick us up to go out to the meal. And Dr. Osher's has a very interesting home with a regulation basketball court and baseball field and all sorts of sporting equipment. Very nice place. And so we went to one meal after another meal and fancier cars. And at the end, we're like, "Oh, there's got to be something wrong with this place. This is like too good to be true." And so we came for the weekend, and then we looked around a little more and decided, let's move to Cincinnati. Maybe 3 years we'll be there, because we don't have any ties to Cincinnati. There's no reason for us geographically to live in Cincinnati. I told him when he called, he said, "All I know about Cincinnati is it's out west somewhere." And he said, "We're not that far west." I said, "You're not on the East Coast, you're west." But as things happen, after 3 years, we were like, well, it's a pretty good deal. I always wanted to be a residency program director, even though I was now in private practice. And it looked like maybe I was going to get that opportunity. And, we got here, and I got here in July 94. So that was 26 years ago. And by 98, I was the residency program director.